One of the keys to feeling great and looking great is having optimal hormones. And when I talk about optimal hormones, oftentimes I'm talking about estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, and they're really important. But today I want to talk about another equally important hormone, and that hormone is insulin. Insulin is the hormone that regulates your blood sugar. And 80% of people today have less than optimal blood sugar, and this impacts your health greatly. Insulin's job is to take the sugar from the food that we eat and move it from the bloodstream into the cell for the cell to use for fuel to fuel your body. The problem is if we're eating too much sugar or too many carbs and not burning those up through exercise, our body becomes resistant to insulin. The insulin level stays high all the time, and the cells no longer respond to it. And that's called insulin resistance. When you're insulin resistant, it's darn near impossible to lose weight. Additionally, when you're insulin resistant, your sex hormone binding globulin goes down, which allows more of free sex hormone levels to float around in the blood, which leads to hormone imbalance. One of the things that can happen with hormone imbalance is increase in the free androgens, which can lead to acne. So, balancing insulin is not just the key to weight loss, it's also one of the keys to healthy looking skin. So, what can you do if you are insulin resistant? Well, first thing is you need to get adequate sleep. That sounds silly, right? But adequate sleep is so important for optimal health. Secondly, you need to move your body. One way to decrease our sugar in our blood and to make our body more sensitive to insulin is to exercise regularly. Third is we have to eat to keep our insulin low. That means less carbs, less highly processed simple carbs, and always pairing your carbs with a healthy fat or a protein. Um, Fourth, we have to have periods of feasting and fasting. So I like to say when you're eating, eat, and when you're fasting, fast. This means between meals, don't chew gum, don't suck on candy or a mint, don't sip on a Diet Coke or have a Starbucks coffee. You want to have any of those treats at your mealtime when you're already spiking your insulin. And I think as doctors, we've done a disservice to patients saying 6 small meals per day is a really good way to eat. It really isn't. 3 larger meals is a much healthier way to eat with nothing in between the meals. And I also like to, in the end of the evening, not have any snacks before bedtime, right? You have dinner, and then sometimes a few hours later before bedtime, we want to have a snack, but you're already into your fasting window. If you skip that evening snack and go to sleep, you're fasted for a much longer period of time, and that can do wonders with lowering your insulin level. And then lastly, you need to have your thyroid optimized, not just normal, but optimal, and that can help improve insulin resistance as well. One great way to know if you're insulin resistant is what is your hemoglobin A1C? This is a test that's measured every 3 months in diabetic patients with the goal of having it less than 6.5. Well, 5.7 to 6.5 puts you in the pre-diabetes range. And if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, you're definitely insulin resistant. However, 5.4 to 5.6 would be considered normal. Below 5.4 is going to be considered optimal. That's where insulin levels are nice and low, and you're going to be on your way to better health, looking better, and feeling better.